If you are feeling a bit lost about where to put your energy in 2022, you are in good company. Planning for the new year can be overwhelming, especially when we've barely just recovered from the previous year. And already we're being thrown back to work, school, errands, social engagements before things get too noisy. I'll show you a simple process that we can use to map out our thoughts and figure out the direction that we want to push this year. Hi, I'm Shane. Welcome to my channel where I share lessons, strategies, and tips that bring us closer to the best versions of ourselves. I just finished my annual planning session over New Year's in a remote cabin in Northern California. It was super helpful to just be unplugged and spend an afternoon reflecting on what happened in 2021. The end result was a thematic mind map that I can use to help guide my initiatives this year. In this video, we'll cover a quick overview of the same system, as well as the 4 steps that I took to not only plan out my year, but to take action on it. All right, let's dive in. The way that I look at life design is through the lens of not only the annual, but also the weekly and the daily. And this diagram summarizes this quite well, which you can see here. The top level, we've got lifetime, followed by annual, then is made up of the weeks, then made up the days, right? And within each of these levels, we have different tools that help us organize our thoughts around which direction that we want to push in life, but also break them down into 2-week sprints and actionable to-do lists, or mind maps. In this video, we're mainly focused on the annual level, which includes a retrospective and themes map. If you want to dig deeper, I've made a field guide on this topic of intentional productivity, as well as separate videos for all of these steps. Step 1 is the retrospective, which is a reflection of the previous year. The questions you want to ask here are, what went well, the highlights? What didn't go so well, the lowlights? What did you like? What did you not like? And what would you like to continue or discontinue? As you are answering these questions, either in mind map form or journaling, you're looking for themes or repeating patterns that are coming out of all of these things. 2021 was a continuation of the growth that I had kickstarted in 2020 during the pandemic. So this includes community building through authentic and genuine relationships, friendships, coming back to YouTube after an 8-month hiatus where I took time off to just focus on myself. And after taking some time to journal all this out, which is my preferred way of actual reflection, not always mind maps. The 3 themes that emerged are self, community, and content. These 3 themes that came out the retrospective will form the backbone of the mind map that we're going to talk about next. The themes map represents what we would like to focus on this year. Unlike New Year resolutions, they're not super specific or actionable and measurable, but rather provide a general guideline of what direction we would like to push this year. If we want to transform them into action, that's where the lower level steps are for. For example, the 2-week sprints and the do mind map. The key tip here is to not have too many themes, especially if they're really broad. Just like the 2-week sprints, if we have too many focus areas, we really do risk spreading ourselves too thin and setting ourselves up for failure. For me, I only started with 3 themes to begin with, right? We got content, self, and community. From there, I expanded out the various different things that came to mind that are associated with it. So for example, under content, we've got YouTube, newsletter and the website, podcast and speaking. And then beyond that, I will expand out what I would like to achieve with each of these, right? So for example, with YouTube, I would like to be more consistent with rolling out these videos. Under newsletter and website, I want to focus on the field guides, right? So for example, the intentional productivity is the first one that I launched, which is stringing together all the various different content that are related to that in a way that will help beginners. And then for the podcast, I need to determine what is the cadence, what's the format, and who do I want to invite onto it? What are the themes I want to cover? And under speaking, I need to determine which companies or clients I want to work with and what type of workshops do I want to teach. So at this point, there's nothing really specific yet, right? But these are the overarching things that I would like to achieve or at least like push towards this year. And the same thing under community, which includes IRL, in real life monthly catch-ups or over calls, hosting more dinners, which is, COVID pending. Activities like, camping, cycling. But I think most importantly is actually creating space to appreciate people, right? Which I feel like we don't do that enough given our busy lives. And then there are the things I want to do for myself, which include continue to take a vulnerable and authentic path towards my relationships and the content that I create for you guys, as well as taking more retreats and enhancing my skills. So for example, I've got a 10-day silent meditation retreat that is coming up that I'm very excited but also very anxious about, because I've never gone on that long within just my mind, right? So I might go crazy, who knows? After you've expanded out all the initiatives that go under these themes, I would recommend taking a different color pen and annotate and start drawing arrows to see if you can identify any relationships between the different themes. So for example, for me, I drew an arrow from YouTube to community, right? Because in 2021, what I realized was through all of these direct messages and emails exchanges, I was able to connect with several of you guys and start forming an offline community, right, in real life. And that has been enormously rewarding then for me, which contributed to my personal growth, which then contributes to the content that I create, right? So in this way, I actually identified what's called a flywheel effect, where there is a synergistic relationship between the different themes, that when everything is going well, I feel like I'm on top of the world. You've got the content that is generating community. Community is contributing to self, which then contributes to better content. The flip side is also true, right? When a lot of the lowlights or the things that didn't go so well during 2021 was when things became imbalanced. It was the result of overcommitting to one or more of these themes, where, for example, I will feel really spread thin when all I'm doing is just cranking out content and hosting things and seeing people and doing catch-ups, where I feel like I didn't have enough time or stillness to actually reflect, to learn, to read. I felt like I wasn't being present enough with myself and to learn enough to actually teach others. So those were the times in which I needed to take a step back from both community as well as content and focus on myself. Through all of this, I realized that then the overarching theme is one of balance, where I'm trying to figure out how do I expand on all of the three themes of content, community, and self while preventing myself from being burnt out or spread too thin. As you go through and mind mapping out your own year, definitely pay attention to the different nodes and the relationships and the arrows to see if you can figure out these synergistic relationships where you can craft a flywheel effect. Because these are the instances when focusing on just one part of your life can actually be such a value add to the other parts. So how do we transform the mind map that we just made into actionable steps? This is where the 2-week sprint comes in. I previously made a video on this particular topic that I'll include in the show notes, but we'll briefly go through it here. The point of a 2-week sprint is so that we can create what's called SMART goals. They are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-framed. So let's go through this. So here, you'll notice that in my 2-week sprint planning, I've got content, self, and community. This is the same structure that we just used in the themes mind map, right? And that's the point, because the themes map is the guide for the 2-week sprints as well as the daily to-dos, right? Everything is aligned from the annual, which is made of the building blocks of weeks, followed by the days. So here, what we've got is YouTube, newsletter, and speaking. You'll notice that I didn't put podcasts here because just like the themes, you don't want to focus on too many things, especially within a 2-week time frame, right? YouTube, newsletter, and speaking are the only things that I should and can have the energy and time to focus on. So we've got under YouTube, we have silver and steel, right? Overall, I want to film 1 new video, edit 5, and publish 7. So pretty ambitious goal, but these are specific again and also measurable. Newsletter, obviously write them, repost them on LinkedIn or my website. Speaking, I need to prep for a workshop, create a curriculum around it, an agenda and deck. Under community, I have appreciation sessions, planned where I essentially reach out to my friends, right? Give myself that, 30 minutes to an hour a day just to slow down my life so that I can think about and appreciate the people who are in my life. Otherwise, I feel like the only times that we actually appreciate people are on Christmas and their birthdays. It actually doesn't have to be that way. And then under community, I have appreciation sessions and catch-ups planned. Under self, I've got body, which includes a night routine of locking on my electronics by 9 p.m., going to sleep in bed by 10 p.m., and then getting up early so that I can write, read, and work. So this kind of encompasses my thematic map into a 2-week sprint format, which then I can take action on in the next step, which is the to-do mind map. So here, you'll notice that I've got it in the same format of content, self, and community, right? So this is where things are extremely actionable, and this is where I actually start checking things off or crossing things off, right? So under content, I have newsletter, LinkedIn repost, website repost. Once I finish those things, I can start crossing them out. Under YouTube, reply to my editors, edit this video that I've got. Community, I have various different catch-ups planned. And self, running some errands, right? All right, guys, I threw a lot at you today because this is the abbreviated version of the entire intentional living framework end to end. I hope this was helpful for you, especially as we're all trying to figure out our direction for this year and where we want to push things. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Until next time, take care.